Good evening, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Tailgaters here on MUTV 23 Sports.
I'm Justin Kollar, and this is my wonderful co-host, Thomas Maurer. We know you, the audience, are not used to seeing us on here, maybe save for a couple times coming in as an analyst, but tonight we're subbing in for Jared and Jacob, and we're here, and we're ready to show you a jam-packed show.
That's exactly right, Justin. Tonight we're going to discuss many different areas of the sports world. Later on in the show, we'll take a look at potential NBA playoff matchups and also take a look at what happened in the national championship game that happened last night between Villanova and UNC.
Trust me, you don't want to miss any of that, but before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look with some Major League Baseball as spring training has just wrapped up and the regular season is now underway.
Absolutely, Justin. It's early, but I think it's a good idea to make some bold predictions on the year based off what we've seen so far in spring training.
Yes, sir. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the divisions here. First with the AL East.
So we got the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Orioles, and the Rays. One thing I love about this Red Sox team, I love the fight in them. You know, they still got they just picked up David Price. They still got Ortiz come into his last year. Picked up Joe Kelly and Buchholz. Hopefully Buchholz will be able to pull a few strings and get it going.
Yeah, and you're a Red Sox guy. I know this is David Ortiz's farewell tour. You know, so I'm sure every ballpark he goes to for the last time, there's going to be standing ovations, things like that. Let's move on to the Yankees. I know we got some Yankees fans here. Starlin Castro, big pickup from the Cubs. He wasn't really panning out there, but today I know he had a nice, I think he had a 2-run double.
Yeah, I think you're
got
right.
him on the board. So maybe he'll have some success in New York. Hopefully for him. I enjoyed watching him in the Cubs.
Exactly. I think one guy that the Yankees, really need this year is Tanaka. I think, if he stays healthy this year, he could really do some damage. And he's obviously their ace for them. But last year, he had some injuries, and that didn't help the team. But
crucial.
Keeping them healthy is really, really going to help this team. Let's move on to the Blue Jays, the big bats, like I call them.
Okay, so we already know Joey Bautista, what he did last year in the playoffs, flipping the bat. And, also, not him just by himself. We had the AL MVP in Josh Donaldson. He's doing some big things already this season in only one game. So, I mean, it's kind of early to make these predictions and things like that, but it is fun. And Kevin Pillar had an amazing game with the Blue Jays today. And they're saying he has he's making a case for the Golden Glove already.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Then you got Encarnacion, Tulowitzki. You got some defensive studs out there. Pitching-wise, you got Stroman and Dickey as the aces. Pretty much had the same team as they had last year.
And they had a lot of success last year.
Last year they made some noise, so we'll see what they can do this year. Moving on, let's get to the Orioles. What do you think about the Orioles?
Man, the Orioles, I think last year they kind of they had some good things going, but there wasn't anything really there with the Orioles that really struck me as, wow, this is a team that is going to be doing some big things in the postseason. Obviously, they didn't make it last year. And, they had some acquisitions this season, but, they're a team that I wouldn't sleep on, but at the same time, there's really not much brewing down in Baltimore, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with your saying. Really the two big guys that I like on this team, and really the two only guys that I see making any noise this year are Machado and Chris Davis. Last year, Machado had 35 home runs. You could see him possibly in the MVP race this year. Plus, you had Chris Davis,
who carrying their team.
He slugged 47 last year. So if those two guys can really bring it, the Orioles have a chance. But you never really know. It's not a two-man game. It's a full team effort. Moving on to the Devil Rays. What do we got?
Honestly, with the Devil Rays, I know I didn't say much about the Orioles. I think there's even less to say about the Rays right now. Honestly, the Rays, I think that they just need to keep improving the young roster that they have and just moving forward. But I think this is going to be a year that they will probably want to forget.
Yeah, I think you're right. Really, the only two players I really see on the team are Chris Archer, stud pitcher. He's going to bring it. You have Longoria, obviously, with the bat, but other than that, no one on that team really stands out to me. I see them being in last place. I think, the big thing with the AL East, I was talking to some of the buddies earlier, and, there's really only like 3 teams that can
really making some noise there.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, you got some of those teams that they might brush over.
I think it could go either way.
So let's move on then to the AL Central. We got the Indians there, the Tigers, the Royals. We know that they're going to be doing some big things. So, here we go. So the Kansas City Royals, they, for the most part, have not lost many players. They lost Ben Zobrist to the Cubs, and other than that, you have basically the same team coming back. What do you think about them?
Yeah, literally they lost no one. Like they have Hosmer still, Moustakas, Salvador Perez, Lorenzo Cain, Lorenzo Cain is a stud. So watch out for the Royals. They're going to take AL Central for sure.
They were raising that banner 2 nights ago, and I think that they have a legitimate chance of chasing another one this year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Moving on to the Twins. What do you see here? Last year, they got second.
I think the Twins, last year they definitely made some good strides.
Yeah.
The Twins did. I think this year could be the same thing. Honestly, the Twins just need to keep working on what they were doing last year. They had some good stuff going. So I think, honestly, if they just keep working on that, then they'll be fine. Let's move on to the Tigers, though. There's some questions there. Justin Verlander last year coming off of that injury. I think he has a legitimate chance to maybe regain some form that he had in the past. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. He's still got heat. He can still throw the ball. But, being one of the lone, they obviously have some great
losing
pitchers on
Scherzer
their
last
roster.
year.
Yeah, exactly. But, he's going to have to carry a big load. I think they're really going to have to put a lot of weight on their hitters. You got Miguel Cabrera to see what he can do. J.D. Martinez hit 38 home runs last year. It'll be interesting to see if he can, bring up the same productivity.
For sure.
But you never really know. Moving on, let's go to the Indians.
The Windians.
The Indians lost today to the Red Sox.
Yeah, and they didn't even play yesterday because it was too cold in Cleveland.
They got snowed out or something.
Corey Kluber had a little bit of a rough start. So I think, we got Terry Francona over there. I think that he's a great manager. And you have two stud pitchers, Corey Kluber and Cody Robinson, or Anderson, rather, my bad. I think that the Indians, they're a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. Last year, they were picked to win the World Series.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, they were just a little shy of that.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Short.
So I think, the Indians, they might be a team that, you don't want to sleep on them. I think they have a chance. What do you think?
Exactly. Pretty much everything you said. One guy I do really like is Kipnis, second baseman. He was an all-star last year. If this dude can come back, bring the same effort and the same set of skills and same productivity, this dude could really lead the team. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Moving on, what do you see with the White Sox?
I was just going to say, I don't want to throw any shade to the South Side. I'm a Cubs fan. Again, not much going on down there in the South Side, so I think that we should just move on to the next.
Yeah. Let's start on the AL West. We got the Rangers. Last year they had a monster comeback.
Amazing comeback from the Rangers.
First place. What do you think? What's going to happen there?
Well, that's George W. Bush's favorite team. I think that the Rangers are going to, honestly, they're going to probably be number 2. I think that it's going to be the Astros. They're going to take that number 1 spot in this one. So moving on with the Astros, you got Carlos Correa and Dallas Keuchel. I think that he's throwing some heat too. He had a great season last year, and I think that the Astros are in a spot where they can take that number 1 position.
Yeah, I agree with that. You got Keuchel, who's doing what he does, and you got Correa, young talent, 22 home runs last year as a rookie. Pretty fantastic. Rasmus, always solid. I agree with that. I think they have a really good chance of taking first place. Let's move on.
The rest of this division, really, you just have the Angels.
Really, you have the Angels.
And then the A's and the Mariners, not much going on.
Mariners, A's, not going to do anything. You got the Angels, you got Trout, Pujols, both, slugging everywhere. That's good. Let's move on to the NL East. The Mets, World Series runner-ups last year. What do you see with this team?
They signed Cespedes. That was huge, getting him back. I saw a clip. He had a little bit of a rough time catching a ball that might have gotten caught underneath the back there. And then today he missed an easy fly ball. But honestly, he's huge to that team. He's a big part of that. So I think the Mets have a legit chance to get back to where they were again. And moving on in here, you got the Nationals too.
Yeah.
They were just shy last year.
Yeah.
Obviously that stung. So I think that they're primed to make a run as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Bryce Harper, stud. We all know what he can do.
We brought up Scherzer.
Exactly. Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, still a solid pitcher. It would be interesting to see what they can do. Honestly, in the NL East, it's really just going to be the Mets and Nationals fight. I don't see the Marlins aren't really going to do anything. The Braves.
Yeah, some of these teams are like in the cellar.
Yeah, so let's move on. We'll start with the NL Central. NL Central is pretty packed in terms of really just 2 teams. 2 teams packed.
Well, I don't know. I would say the top 3, because last year you had the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Pirates, who were the top 3 teams in Major League Baseball last year, and with the most wins, that is. So I think really it's going to come down to that again. I don't really see the Pirates being that number 2 spot again. The Cubs were there. I think that in my mind, the Cubs will win this one.
Yeah,
because the Cardinals lost some key players.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think the Cubs are just too stacked to not, win that division. Cardinals are going to be a very close second. Pirates will make them feel a little uncomfortable, but there's still going to be a good 6-7 games back.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Cubs, though, Justin actually had the opportunity to head to Phoenix for a little spring training ball last week. So let's take a look at what you got.
Let's see. Justin Kollar here with a very special edition of 23 Sports Live. I'm here in the Sonoran Desert, just a couple miles away from Mesa, Arizona. That's where the Chicago Cubs hold their spring training. I'm joined by my friend, Mr. Seguero. He's the commissioner of the Cactus League. We're going to talk a little bit about how the Cubs have been doing the past few games and how they're ramping up into the regular season. Major League Baseball's spring training season has come and gone as the regular season is now among us. During camp, there was a lot of noise coming particularly from Cubs camp. Yes, the team that was swept last year in the NLCS is early favorites to win it all this season, as most analysts say they have the most depth in nearly every position on the roster. Spring training, however, has not been necessarily kind to the North Siders this year, as the Cubs have finished 11-17, and with plenty of questions circling the young roster and the pitching staff. It was just a few days ago that the Cubs were worried about their starting pitcher, Jake Arrieta, and his ability to start on opening day as he had developed a nasty blister on his pitching hand. As the Oakland A's came into town last Tuesday, Jake put those questions to rest. Pitching 102 times for 5 innings, he looked prepared. His fastball was in the mid-90s, and the team was behind him, blasting 5 balls out of the park, beating the A's 9-5. The next day would be Wednesday, and the Cubs were set to face the Rockies, and John Lester would take the mound. Setting a record for strikeouts last year for the Cubs as a left-handed pitcher, his season still didn't live up to expectations. However, if this game was a snapshot indication of how he will perform this season, Cubs fans are truly in for a treat. He was a jack of all trades, pitching 10 strikeouts in 6 innings and hitting a 2-run homer. Lester is a .041 hitter, and this was his first home run of his entire career. The outspoken manager of the Cubs, Joe Maddon, said he was not at all surprised. Speaking of Maddon, he was not at all worried about the Cubs' slow start, saying that they're slow dancing into the regular season. They'll heat up when they need to. From the Sonoran Desert, I'm Justin Kollar. Go Cubs.
Wow.
Spring training is a great atmosphere. There's a lot of people there, especially because it's the Cubs. They say it's the year for the Cubs. I had an opportunity. I brought a little MUTV pass, and I just walked right through.
That's
I got
awesome.
to interview while I was there for the interview for Jake Arrieta, and I was there for Lester pitching. So it was a great experience.
That was awesome. Great shots. Real quick, NL West, Dodgers, Giants. What do you see?
Well, you know, the Dodgers, again, Clayton Kershaw has been masterful. And I think that that's just going to continue again. I want to talk real briefly about Zach Greinke with the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks got some new jerseys. They're kind of sketchy, kind of like the Browns' New Jersey thing. But he had his worst start in 4 years yesterday. And, you know, if I were Arizona Diamondbacks fans, I wouldn't be too worried about this. Maybe he's just getting used to, you know, the hot desert sun, something like that. I know I got burned. But going back to what you said with the Dodgers, I think that they're still going to take this one.
Think so? Mm-hmm. I think the Giants will make a close second. They got some great players in Hunter Pence and Posey. Bumgarner obviously leading the team in that pitching rotation. But it'll be interesting. Baseball has just started, but that's all we have for this segment. Coming up next, we'll have 23 sports analyst Brad Smith on to talk about some potential NBA playoff matchups. Don't go away.